SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps SFJ4X4. And I am joined in Grandma's Couch Studio
By that guy over there. With
by the
this
bookends,
really
by the
nice,
twins.
Yellow shirt that says kindness on
It
it.
is a nice shirt, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it looks like you might have got the same one.
Yeah.
Huh.
Apparently, there was a memo this morning.
Yeah, you
and,
forgot it.
Jeff, the Italian Stallion, and Scott, the Mad Scientist Brown, just called each other up.
Nope.
And it was like middle school. All over. Hey guys, what are you wearing
No,
today?
we need to start doing that so we
And-
don't wear the same thing.
And they both showed up in their summer series kindness shirt, which
we were just thinking there needs to be more kindness in the world.
they
And
both
obviously-
showed up.
So Jeff thinks there should be more kindness, and Neil thinks there should be some hustle.
I got my hustle, my signature hustle shirt on.
Screw the
for-
kindness, hustle. Get it
Yeah,
done.
right. I'm over it. I am angry at the world. But that's a side note. You both showed up in shorts today. It's a mild day. It's not even the hottest
I
day.
was
You both showed up in
enjoying
shorts.
You know it's supposed to get hot, right?
No, it's not. It's cooler today than it has been in weeks. And then you got you
sure.
have the worst weather understanding of weather that anybody else I know. So you don't get to weigh in on this.
So anyways, Nate's first says good morning.
As always, good job, Nate.
Daddy Jeep says morning. Then Giaga Jeepers, good morning. I'm not sure why, but Daddy Jeep said, uh-oh.
I don't know why he's and
I don't
I
know.
saw that come through and I thought, oh no, are we live? And it caught me hot mic'd.
I don't know. And then Jeannie saying good morning to you all. Another Put in Bay in the books. Didn't win any awards, but it was fun.
Excellent. Good for you. Enjoy the show.
Family is way off road saying good morning. And then Matthew Morosky saying good morning, guys.
Good morning to all of you. It was a big weekend for the Jeep community in the east of the Mississippi spaces. You did have the Put in Bay Jeep invasion, which is a limited capacity invasion of that space. Really neat show that's been going on. It feels like 10 plus years at this point. Somebody will weigh in and make sure they share with us. And then we had the PA All Breeds Jeep show out in Carlisle, Pennsylvania now. One that was a near and dear show to my heart. And I actually was in a moment of mourning because I pretty much stopped doing that show somewhere around 2020, and I have yet to make it a priority to get back, and I desperately miss it. I miss that part of the country. I miss, we used to take a day or two off prior to traveling to that show, and we would wheel at Anthracite or Roush or Centralia or find some local trails, and we would meet up with some great Jeepers out there, and that was a valuable part of my summer experience, and I'm missing it. So I was kind of in a moment of mourning all weekend thinking about it.
So there's some contention in the chats here saying Daddy Jeep claims that his showed up before Nate, and don't make him send a screenshot. We've got Robert saying good morning, sunshine. Nate saying the champ is here. Roy Hill saying good morning, buds. And then Jeannie said Put in Bay was the 10th anniversary. And then Yvonne saying good morning as well.
Good morning. And I think I'm going to put the conspiracy theory out right now. So I'm not necessarily a conspiracy theorist in the classical 2025 variation. But I think somehow Nate has bugged our system.
Well, without question.
Because I know multiple people
It's not
who claim
possible to be that consistently first.
it's amazing.
I just think there should be a wheel off. Daddy Jeep versus Nate.
So Daddy
ugh.
Jeep, So Rob joined us for our summer fun wheeling, which I think we did last year, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we went out and we banged around Southington Off-Road, and he took that, and I'm giving him credit for initiating it this summer, and he came up with the hot summer daddy Jeep day or something like that.
Something like that.
And he's going to tell us here in a second. And you can wheel with Daddy Jeep this August, which is also the same weekend as Toledo Jeep Festival. So if you, again, splitting your time one way or the other, you want to do some wheeling, you could be at Southington Off-Road, or if you want to go to a really comprehensive show and kind of immersion in the, in the realm of where Jeeps are manufactured, you could be at Toledo Jeep Festival. And that is, those are both coming up. And I think that, he just posted there's opportunity to be camping. It's an informal event. I know that we got to wheel together last year.
Hot summer days of wheeling.
Yes, with Daddy Jeep though.
Yeah.
It has to be said. And I think that is a great experience for somebody who wants to get out there with a really capable group. So when I say that, they're great people who are going to make you feel comfortable trying new things or not trying things.
Or you can just watch him try things. And the official snack distributor, Bill McWilliams, will probably be in attendance.
I would bet.
And
Apparently he's saying they're at SOR on Saturday and the Landing on Sunday.
Okay, there you go. So
Wonder which place is going to take more lockouts, SLR or Sunday.
you know what? Every time he brings it up, I'm just like dry flanges.
Yes.
He's like, but my front drive shaft. I'm not here.
I just want to know if he has the
At
little.
the same time, he just repairs it on the side of the trail in 15
does.
minutes anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Or he could just not break it. It's dry flanges.
He needs a little lockout with a line through him on the side of the Jeep. So
Yes.
we know how many.
Yes. Well, Mile Marker could step up and give him a decent product. I don't know.
Or just sponsor him at this point.
Ooh, they could. that would show some dedication. Folks, we need to actually finish up our talking points from last week where we're talking about pricing.
Before we
and-
get to that, you started something. In the comments, Nate says, Rob, Daddy Jeep Morgan has an impressive YJ. My Gladiator is still a daily driver. I can concede the wheel off, unless it includes driving the rig a few hundred miles to get the trails. To which Daddy Jeep replies, shots fired.
Yeah. That tracks. That tracks. Folks, if you're listening in, I want you to know that you too can jump into the comments and have a good time. We go live nearly every single Monday morning at 10:19 a.m. Jump in the comments, have a friendly keyboard wheel off with some of our notable folks. And if you're not able to join us, but you are part of our dedicated streaming download family, we thank you so very much. We ask that you go ahead and take a moment and leave us a ranking and a review. It's such a valuable part of kind of building out the I Speak Jeep podcast. It's fascinating. While we trend in some of the top most listened off-road and Jeep 4x4 podcasts, we actually have very few reviews and rankings by comparison. And so we're asking you to make it a priority to leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. But iTunes, Audible, Spotify, those are the ones that, and Google, but of course Google Cast I don't think is a thing anymore. But those are the ones where there's some metrics at play. And we ask that you make sure that you take this time and to leave that review.
5 stars.
And if you're really dedicated, you need to go to Antarctica and watch with the penguins
Yes.
so that we can get that.
Get the penguins hooked so that
But
they
if
were
you're
getting
not
the
going to
regular stream.
Antarctica, leave us a review.
Come on, what are you waiting for, right? Anyways.
How dedicated are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pricing and logistics. And we're talking about in this current market. And I want to kind of kick off the talking point to summarize a little bit of what we discussed last week. We talked about product availability. And we talked about house brands, import products, how some of that pricing has changed. What we didn't exactly tiptoe into is what I would call the potential inflammatory or predatory practice of of raising prices, whether or not it is actually required. So seeing that a number of products out there have started to raise prices in anticipation of some of the economic challenges.
Come
we
on,
talked
now. They're going to say that's keeping market relevancy.
Yes, and they've cited market relevancy and impending tariffs and product availability and supply and demand
There
logistics.
might be a rainstorm on Tuesday.
We've gotten the emails and we've seen constant price increases from our manufacturing partners, and it is just remarkable to see those things in real time. And in fact, we actually had a dedicated individual who is a largely USA made product in the steering system world. And we were at an event together, and they confided in us that every day they wake up and they go to the .gov sites to see how their manufacturing logistics have been impacted, and if they're going to be getting supplies, raw materials, workforce interruptions, whatever might be the case that we're all currently dealing with. And it was fascinating to hear a largely USA manufacturer talk about some of the what might be called the trickle-down implications of our current market challenges. And so we're not dealing strictly with Connex containers floating out in the ocean issues, though I did just recently see an inflammatory video showing, nothing shy of 11 empty freighters sitting off the coast of California with no Connex containers because goods just weren't moving. I thought that was an interesting observation.
I thought also is interesting of late is you see more and more, their market is just selling those import products. And they're saying, well, this is U.S. stock. So we have it on the shelf here, so you don't have to wait for maybe the boat to bring it over. So that is literally now a selling point.
That it is U.S. stock, that it has been stockpiled and inventory ready here within U.S. warehouses. Absolutely. And we are seeing more and more of that.
And the other part of this is I saw those people using that advertisement of we're all U.S. You don't have to worry about tariffs hurting our pricing. Now I kind of cry bullpucky.
Yep.
Because it's impossible to be completely without that affecting you. Because I don't care if it's the consumables that you're using, or the truck that brought you the consumables, or the truck that picks up your products, or whatever. Somehow you're getting touched by that.
Well, and that's the point of me bringing up this specific steering component manufacturer who is a largely USA proud brand, and talking about every day they're waking up to try and see, they spend 20, 30 minutes. He said something to us that every day he wakes up and he's...
So we talk about the power hour in the mornings, and that's literally how he's spending it. He's sharpening his axe as a business management piece to understand what's happening in the world globally that may or may not affect his business directly.
So he can pivot appropriately.
Yes. Appropriately in response to some of the challenges that we're all facing. And ultimately, and I thought was interesting, and while we want to be talking about some of the warehousing and freight logistics, and while I think your U.S. stock conversation would have been a great segue, I'm stuck on a couple things that I was exposed to over the weekend. First and foremost, I thought it was fun, and my social media memories popped up from roughly 13 years ago. I had a post out to the world that I was willing to pay a few extra dollars to ensure that it said USA made on it. And I think it's interesting to kind of unpack a little bit of what that means when we talk about our logistics today. So we have my own personal disposition, and as I was as my weekend update, and I'll share with folks, I was staring at a lot of USA made stuff. Despite sitting on my Mahindra tractor, I'm using all of the implements on the tractor. All are proudly engraved and stamped USA on them.
I can't help but the fact that you said you would pay $20 extra for a USA made product for
A few extra dollars. I didn't say
Whatever.
20.
You didn't say 20. Don't put
Few
words in his
extra.
mouth.
Whatever.
Yeah, easy
Whatever.
mainstream media.
Either way, all I can think of is Tommy Boy, where they said you could pay a few extra dollars for it to say warranty on the box, but you could still have a pile in the box.
Yes. Yes. That's a great phrase. Well, and so, interestingly enough, I was exposed to, Scott sent me a great reel over the weekend about a guy ohm testing spark plugs.
Yep.
Okay? He was ohm resistance testing his spark plugs. Ow, I kid you not 10 hours after you sent me that reel, and of course, I loved it. I need you to know, like, that is where my technical brain
Oh, I knew it.
just bites into that kind of stuff. Not at all related to Jeeps. It was just a technical piece. Not 10 hours later on Joe O'Brien's Wheeling Upright group, shout out to our organized clubs all around the country. An individual had installed new spark plugs in his wife's 2.0 turbo Jeep, and within 1 week developed a miss, has no codes, has hesitation under acceleration, this, that, and the third, pulled the plugs out, and I get tagged in. I saw it. I can't respond to every single interesting technical thing in the world, but I do, within 24 hours, get tagged into this conversation. And at that point in time, I just said, yeah, hey, I saw it. But basically, like, I asked a friendly question and I kind of moved on because, again, I insert myself delicately in forums and community groups all across the internet. I'm not in every single conversation. But anyways, person reaches out to me directly, starts to fill me in on some of the background. And this idea that a lot of people are not aware that how often spark plugs specifically are counterfeited. And or they are manufactured in different facilities that do not always have the exact same workflow process or quality control. And you
Or
can
they
have
can get damaged in transit.
Yes, or they can get damaged in transit because we are not building spark plugs in the U.S. in mass quantity. And these were specifically an import spark plug. I don't know country of origin necessarily, but I did then take that video that you sent me and sent it to him. And he was like, well, can I buy it he bought what he felt the book called for his Jeep, but he bought them at a local box retailer as opposed to the dealership. And he asked me, and he said, is this a possibility? Like, are you going to tell me, so we're going to use the term mongoose from bicycles. And I'm using this guy's words. He's like, are you going to tell me that the mongoose bicycle, that spark plugs are like mongoose bicycles? The ones that you buy at Walmart are different than the ones you buy at bike shops.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
That's what it is. And they could be branded the same or similarly, but they're just factually coming
One
through
part number different.
coming through two different supply chains. They might even be, to Jeff's credit and expanding upon it, they might be the same part number and then dash A or dash 1.
That's because of these big retailers going to these companies and going, hey, we will sell your product, but you're going to have to sell it to us at blah price. And the company goes, well, we can't make any money at that blah price, but we want to make this huge sale. And next year we'll get to make another sale. So we have to figure out a way to make our parts where we can still make money and sell it at this blah price.
The insider secret on that, though, is that whether there's a dash afterwards or if it's just a change within the sequence of numbers, the number that changes between going to box store A, box store B, and the dealer is the identification of where that product was made.
And ultimately, I did have to say to him, he was like, well, do you think the dealership will be a guaranteed improvement? And I said, I can't because of today's conversation of pricing, logistics, and flow. I said, I do believe that buying from the dealership is going to be your best option. However, I promise you that every day box store auto parts retailers are delivering to dealerships.
Yep.
So just because you're going to the dealership does not specifically mean or ensure that you are having the utmost dealer quality parts installed. I promise you, AutoZone, Advance, O'Reilly's, Napa, insert your local box store is delivering to the dealership just as they are your local mechanic.
Yep.
So when it comes to logistics and pricing and other types of fascinating gobbledygook, we do have this conversation about where are our parts coming from. So outside of the actual pricing and availability, we have this U.S. stock that Scott was sharing with us, and we have our dedicated warehousing systems, and then we also have the concept of getting from point A to point B. And so one of the things that we are seeing as specifically challenging is that, I kind of proudly tell people that as an independent business, and so that means that we don't have a specific holding company calling the shots above and beyond the nature of our business. We get to just address Jeepers where they're at in kind of an independently facilitated fashion. So we're not incentivized to sell house brands or to sell you a product that we specifically have done a bulk buy of, that we're just trying to find the best part for you. I used to tell people kind of, and I wasn't like shouting it from the rooftops, but we had 64 warehouses to choose from. And that is because we use a series of dedicated wholesale part distribution companies. And so offhand, there are 3 or 4 wholesale parts distributors that the average automotive enthusiast cannot necessarily go directly to and buy parts from.
And actually, talking about this logistics reminds me of doing a bunch of driving I have been doing, and me and my wife were talking about some trucks and where they were from and stuff, and there was one heading back towards Indiana way, and it showed that it was from Indiana. And I said, you would be surprised how I bet you that guy left Indiana bright and early this morning.
Yep.
Probably even before the sun came up. He comes over and he ends up around Pittsburgh, and then he turns around and drives back.
Yes.
And he does that every single day. And it is amazing how that actually happens, and Joe Average doesn't realize. I was actually watching another YouTuber, and they were talking about why the middle of America is so common for warehousing. It's because now they are in the middle, and they can make it to the West Coast or the East Coast with relative ease. If it's on the East Coast, try to get to the West Coast, it takes forever, and vice versa. We've actually felt that when we have product in, say, California or Washington State, we sit for about a week waiting for that product to come. And we have never had more efficient logistics with trucks and planes and trains and automobiles.
Yes, yes.
Couldn't
Yes.
myself.
No,
Anyway.
right?
Yeah, you started it.
It's
I was like,
definitely
that's gonna
fitting.
keep
It's
going.
coming. It's coming, no matter what.
Anyway,
If you weren't going to finish it, I was.
I figured.
Yeah.
But in today, when we want something, next day or 2 days or something like that, well, it needs to be in Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, somewhere in there in the middle of the country or ish, for that logistics to do that.
And I think that that's an interesting piece about our current position as the Western market is concerned. We have a sense of immediate gratification. Our forefathers, and even and when I say that, I talk about generationally, individuals who very much are alive and well, 70 to 90 right now, will have a memory of the fact that things just took time
Well,
and patience.
Let's say we talked about this with your grandpa. He was rebuilding an old Jeep. He needed some parts, and you would go and you would write a letter stating what you wanted.
Yep.
You would put that envelope, go down to your local post office, you put it in there, you patiently wait for a response. The person that had the shop would receive your letter, would look and see what's available, would reply by another letter or call you. Then finally you would get that correspondence back. So how much time has passed at this point?
Right.
Well, that's if you didn't negotiate.
Correct. And then finally you could send them a check. That had to slowly make its way there. Then they had to cash the check. Then they could then ship the parts. And then, we're talking probably a solid month
Minimum.
which is why the Sears catalog and the J.C. Whitney catalog and that kind of stuff. Because now the first part of that is cut out. Now I can just go on the catalog and go, like you said last episode, oh, this stuff exists.
Yes.
I think.
But
I'm going to operate like it does. So now I can purchase that. I don't have to write the letter and have the letter received and all this other logistics.
And where that worked well was at that time, we didn't have the internet, so you didn't have any other instant gratification. So that was your instant gratification.
Yes.
And you were getting it relatively quick if it was in stock. If not, you were getting a letter back saying, hey, sorry, there's delays. It may take 7 weeks to get it. And you just waited because that's what you did.
And you enjoyed the opportunity that you could buy a house or a light bulb or a tire or whatever you wanted from these big retailers like J.C. Whitney and the Sears catalog, which is now Amazon and eBay and Walmart.com. And those kind of things have all aligned themselves to replace those earlier. But and we're all guilty of it. You know, you go on there, you say, oh, I would like to be able to do this project. If this one says it will be here on Tuesday and that one says it'll be here on Friday, I'm going to go with the Tuesday one.
Every time.
And then when the Tuesday doesn't show up, I'm going to be mad
Yes.
that it didn't show up.
Yes. And that has become part of our Western experience. And because of that, warehousing and freight logistics has increased as one of our most valuable kind of unsung heroes post 2020. And this was happening before the pandemic, folks, because one of the things that I like to take testament to, and this is probably, globally, and despite the fact that I already did mention the name once, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and its surrounding areas is not the sprawling hubbub of Los Angeles or New York City or Jersey or Miami. Nobody actually really cared about Carlisle, Pennsylvania, outside of some very specific niche markets. And yet, this area has been identified as one of the foremost assets for warehouse distribution. Mm-hmm. And it has been identified via numerous conglomerates in the wholesale distribution game, from Amazon to auto parts to food distribution, because of its ability to serve the sprawling metropolis of all those urban centers. You think about it; it's very expensive to buy real estate in New York City anymore to then develop it for a warehouse. But if I can move, and I'm just going to make up numbers, folks, 4 hours outside the city, and I know that I can get a truck downtown within 6 hours, and that the trucks can move with efficiency around a sprawling warehouse, then ultimately it benefits me to utilize transportation to my advantage and put my warehouse wherever I can serve both New York City, Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, D.C., up and down the coast of some capacity, and then move inland into the Midwest, and you hit Jasper, Indiana, and it's kind of
the same thing.
The same thing.
And they're also doing Kentucky and Tennessee now more and more. If you pay attention to where some of your shipments come out of, it's Kentucky or Tennessee, whereas you can make it north or south or east and west pretty easily, because you're kind of, again, in the middle, top to down.
And you're flat, you're spot on, and which is one of the reasons why when we had that horrific flooding of so many rural communities just a year ago,
Suddenly you couldn't get your stuff.
you couldn't get your stuff.
Yep.
And the challenge was it disrupted the kind of the interconnected web of human workforce to physical infrastructure throughout the Tennessee, Kentucky area.
Yep.
And most recently, one of the world's largest hubs for UPS is in a similar space.
Yeah.
And so during some potential natural disasters, you got to think about all of the packages that are flowing through these centralized locations. Jeffrey, do me a favor while I'm talking about it. Fact check, kind of to the best of your ability where that hub was. But that ultimately, when we have natural disasters or human, issues, that it can hugely and largely disrupt your logistics.
Louisville, Kentucky.
What is it?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Has the world's one of the world's largest UPS hubs, and so when Louisville had that issue recently, tornadoes, I believe.
Yep, because they're actually an airport. It's the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport in Louisville, Kentucky, and they have approximately 251 inbound and outbound flights daily.
Yes.
Wow.
And
that
so
is the UPS primary international air hub.
And I mean, we're talking about some really spectacular issues. So, we as a society, I think we get caught up on this port integration when it comes to it's very easy. I mean, I think that humans we focus on these large moving pieces because it's easy for us to understand, and so we can see freighters sitting off the port of Los Angeles empty with Connex containers. We can hear politicians saying they're going to open ports on the eastern seashore, and now we got to figure out how to get freighters through the different ponds of the globe. It's easy for us to focus on that, but once that product hits the port, moving it west to east and east to west and north to south is arguably far more complicated and nuanced than just these. I'm an import manufacturer. I'm going to use Smittybilt because they don't exist anymore. And I'm a manufacturer at Smittybilt, or I'm an engineer, I'm a purchaser, and they go, hey, I'm going to fill up a Connex container. I'm going to take $110,000 worth of product, grab handles, winches, side steps, and crappy rusty armor, and I'm going to fill up a Connex container. And that purchaser orders, 3 to 6 months in advance. They send that order over to China. China fulfills an order, puts it in a China shipping Connex container, puts it on a freighter. That takes 3 months of production, 6 weeks of ocean
Sailing across
the ocean, port to port type of situation.
Getting salted.
It all takes time, rusting in the Connex container while it moves.
Yeah.
I don't care, folks. Smittybilt stopped being a good brand 25 years ago. So,
and then then it hits the port. Now you got to go through the customs. You have to have people check and make sure there's not actually people keeping the winches company.
right.
Then they finally release that container. Now they have to distribute it to wherever it's going. Now they get to go through the container and go, what did we actually buy?
Right. It has to show
that time
up
ago.
at some type of warehouse. Now, for those of you who are listening, may or may not know, that Compton, California was the primary initial place of inspection for Smittybilt for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, so ultimately they're dispersing that was their prime headquarters.
And this
You
is also
have to have
important.
humans there doing
that.
things.
And that's another important thing. If it was damaged in the sea voyage, guess when they find that out? Then.
Yep.
So we have at this point months of work.
Yeah, it's like the issue with the spring plates we talked about in the last podcast episode. We personally have been subject to probably almost 8 months of missing a singular spring plate. And once our distributor got that spring plate, and of course they're headquartered in Boston, so everything they get is ported in Boston off of their shipping containers. So, Suez Canal folks, or Panama Canal. So I said Suez. Panama Canal, political game there, folks. But ultimately, that they had to scrap an entire gaylord of these spring plates, and they had to show disposal of all 300 spring plates in order for them to receive a manufacturer's credit in the process, and to be reasonably reimbursed for their initial purchase of the spring plates.
Well, that's another thing too, is a lot of this shipping is one way. That's why Joe Average can go buy a shipping container with China shipping on the side of it somewhere, because that shipping container is not going back.
No.
It is here to stay. Those parts that are scrapped or damaged, they're not going back.
Nope.
There's no repair. There's no.
No, they're turned into
fixing.
pop cans, or actually they're smelted, and actually they're shipped back in raw materials typically.
Yeah, that's the only way they're going back.
That's right. That's right. And this kind of consumer nature of having the shipping containers, and we are benefactors of it. I mean, we've got a couple shipping containers in our possession, and old retired semi trailers and stuff like that, because obviously we're consumer based individuals, and so we need storage, and that makes sense because it's affordable. But we have these products that land that then get inspected, and at that point in time, we have to redistribute them around the country in an effective manner, so that they can arrive to the consumer base. Now, ultimately, our flagship business, SFJ 4x4, becomes a customer of the wholesale distribution business, right? We're a customer just like our end user is a customer.
Yeah.
And very common too. That's again, I feel like Joe Average does not know this. They're selling product out of that container while it's making its sea voyage.
Absolutely.
So when it shows up and everything's on its side in the container and damaged, you've already sold that product.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have someone going, well, where's my product? I've been waiting for my product. Well, yep, you did. And now your product is a U or bent in half. And now we can't, that person cannot be sold that. So now the game starts.
Well, not to mention, I mean, even on a business-to-business level, when we're trying to make purchases, we'll talk to some of these organizations, and they'll be like, or we'll just simply ask, hey, do you have anything coming slow boat over? And they'll be like, yeah, but that one's already all spoken for. We actually have to wait for the next one to be loaded. What?
Yep. It's very common, especially with wheels.
Yeah.
And that was, and we talked about that last week. I love that that point that you made there, especially with wheels, because I like to think that I've used the term for 10 plus years now that we are a USA proud brand. But by today's market standards, we simply cannot compete by being USA only.
Yes.
Because the general consumer market, and this is why, and we talked about it last week, manufacturers have altered their product offerings. Someone like Warren has been manufacturing winches in other countries because they need to compete at an apparent price point that the market dictates.
Yep.
And there was a time, or there is times, when Warren's USA winches simply are not available. Dana Spicer does batch manufacturing. The broad majority of their Ultimate Series axles are manufactured in the Carolinas, and ultimately, distributors. And so, if you were to log on to a number of your favorite e-com retailers right now, you might look at an Ultimate axle, and it will say out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. And I don't care, which manufacturer you look at. Now, what that typically is indicating is that that manufacturer, or excuse me, that retailer does not have that axle in their physical possession, right?
Yep.
Because we're kind of seeing this shift. People want to see physical possession. They don't want it to be the catalog where you don't know. It's ambiguous.
Well, and the crazy part is I actually been thinking about this. Back in the day, say you had your local speed shop, your local 4x4 shop, you expected them to have that on the shelf when you went there. And we still have people call in, say they have old data or an old part for an old vehicle that they're looking for, and they think somewhere in the country on a shelf that is going to exist, and they are going to find the last one. Maybe 30, 40 years ago, you could have done that easily. Today, people are so direct from production to market, that's almost impossible. Because even if, say, one did stay on the shelf and did not get sold, I'll use a wheel for example. Say it's last year's stock, it got a scuff, whatever. They're going to sell it at a extreme cut just to get it off their books and get it off their shelf. So then that does not exist for you to go find in 5 years for that wheel to suddenly poof into existence.
Sure. And so there's things that are there and things that are not, out of stock and whatnot. We have this USA manufactured axle, which is coming out of the Carolinas. It is made in batch manufacturing. This is one of the things I try to share with people. And so this conversation about the poof existing or not existing and being sold at a fire sale, that idea that many of our parts in the U.S. specifically are batch manufactured, meaning if we're going to fire up a machine, if we're going to have some type of machine operator, they're going to run a series of 10 axles. And once they run 10 ultimate Dana 60 axles for a JL, they're going to shut that press down. There's not a human who is at that plant who's just in charge of JL axles, somebody who's just in charge of JK axles, and just in charge of bracketless axles.
Sometimes they do that with gear ratios as well. They'll
100%.
Make a whole bunch of Ultimate 44s with 373 gear ratio, and then they'll make a whole bunch with 410s, and then make a whole bunch of 456. And that means that you can go on. We've dealt with this a lot, where a 373 axle will exist and maybe a 410, but we can't get any 456 axles.
Right.
And 488s are coming soon because they're in that rotation. And if you need that axle in that moment, guess what? You wait.
Yep.
And part of that is part of the human condition of this logistics piece, because ultimately we need humans. We need people to actually do the physical inspection of the goods. We need the people to actually build the axles, to actually set the gears up in the axles.
We need people to actually do the delivery.
We need people to actually drive the trucks.
That's becoming more and more challenging, especially with UPS now closing over 200 locations in the U.S. And that's a whole nother story with the buyout that they're doing, but that's beside the point. The fact that it's going to affect supply chain logistics more than what already we're experiencing.
And we've seen that already with USPS closing down some of their hubs and some of their locations.
Yep.
That has also affected it.
And so our own experience, so a couple of the more prolific wholesale distributors, and one of the things that, I'm gonna put their some of their names out there, and I'm gonna say that we have two. One is called Keystone, and the other is called Meyer Distributing. And if you're attentive enough, you'll see their trucks on the highway. We then have two other ones, Turn 14 and Premier. They utilize traditional
UPS,
shipping logistics. There are challenges to both, because ultimately distributors who utilize traditional shipping logistics are always subject to the fluctuating market of shipping. And, when there's a tornado in Louisville, now you're disrupted and your customer consumer is disrupted. Whereas Meyer and Keystone, who own their own route logistics, they have a slightly bit more control over it. But one of the challenges,
with exception of, and if you are a logistic business such as Meyer and your trucks have a maintenance issue or a truck's down, you're screwed. Whereas if you're using a UPS FedEx service, they've got alternate vehicles that they can use still.
And it also goes into where I see online some people like, oh, UPS just I can get my packages. My logistics with them sucks, but FedEx is better. And then someone else will be like, oh, what are you talking about? FedEx is terrible with me, but UPS is good. It all depends on how close to a hub you are.
And who those drivers are.
Who those drivers are. And that's what I was mentioning with our folks recently with the ones that own their own logistics, Meyer and Keystone. Our own availability of parts is largely subject to our drivers.
Yeah.
And as you started part of this conversation, the fact that one of our big primary areas of receiving goods is Jasper, Indiana, has another big warehouse distribution area. And
a lot of
ultimately,
Midwest warehouses.
yeah, and ultimately they have to have good individuals. I'm going to bring up a comment here with Joe Smith as a truck driver, and I have to salute our hardworking truck drivers, our logistics folks. I know that a lot of our listening audience are you guys, or you guys are a big part of our listening audience, and I thank you for being such an unsung hero in this cog in the wheel of our consumer market.
Makes such a difference because we recently had a driver retire. We felt that.
Yes.
Bad. Because it left a vacuum, and they had to find some temporary people to go into the position. And we had some good experiences and some bad experiences. And then we finally, I think we've got a current driver, which looks to be a good driver. But that we went through that with 2 months about.
More. At least.
Down.
And I raised Cain over this situation. And basically, folks, what it comes down to is, and I used to be very, very proud of the fact that as a mid-sized business, that if you came in and you ordered something with us by 4:30, 5 o'clock, I placed that order, I would have that part for you the next morning by 10 a.m. or so.
And a lot of that was because we had a good driver.
And we had an amazing warehouse system, and it was
everybody
consistent.
was doing their job.
Everybody was doing their job. And ultimately, our primary warehouse was in Jasper, Indiana. And basically, we order a part by 5 o'clock. Their people loaded between, say, 5 and midnight, 5 and 1 a.m. So second shift came in, picked and pulled, all the orders. A driver showed up at midnight, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, jumped in the truck, drove from Jasper over to, as you mentioned, just west of Pittsburgh, basically. That individual then hit that hub, that cross dock, at somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. They offloaded into 3 different trucks. Those 3 different trucks then split off into the Great Lakes region in western Pennsylvania and as far north as Buffalo, Syracuse.
I'm so proud of you for not calling it the Midwest.
Jeffrey, I did that just for you,
I know
so
you did.
you know.
I know.
And so this was a seamless operation, and then people changed. And so I'm going to read Joe Smith's. I can say that it's continually getting harder, and he was the one, as a truck driver, he was saying, continually getting harder to find drivers interested in long haul. So that is forcing more warehouses to be logistically closer. And he's right that over the road OTR trucking industry has its own slew of issues associated with it right now, as far as overregulation and kind of an influx of unqualified individuals. And as a frustrated, truck driver myself, which I hold nothing, I don't hold a candle at all to our actual dedicated individuals. I empathize with these guys, these guys and gals.
With some of that too is now you have more times touching that product, more offloads of a trailer, reloading of a trailer,
Higher risk for damage.
higher risk of getting things lost.
Yep.
So in some ways, the long haul was better because it was just getting touched less.
Right. We'll go back to Smittyville. It landed in Compton. They filled up a tractor trailer or a train car, and they shipped it once over to, four-wheel drive hardware, which eventually became, was owned by the same company. They had very few warehousing, but you had to wait longer for that product. And that was something we accepted as part of society. I actually, and just a complete aside note, I thought it was fascinating just in my general reading, and I actually think I copied you or Jeff on this morning. And I feel like it's valuable to bring it up here because we're talking about how some of those logistics and freighting and human condition has changed. And I remember, and I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but I remember certain restaurants, and they were famously known for being 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Yep.
There was Pat's and Gino's in Philadelphia. There was a little diner in Pittsburgh, and the name escapes me. There was a Casey's restaurant and lounge in Oil City, Pennsylvania. There was these restaurants every hour or two geographically away. You had a restaurant or a business, some type of eatery, some type of social space that was 24/7. That was 24/7. They needed to have food ready. They needed to have their appliances working. They needed to have personnel there to cook and serve and greet and all that kind of
yet
stuff.
again, that affected our truckers because a lot of truck stops had 24-hour diners.
Yes.
'Cause you never knew when that truck driver was going to need to come off the road. Has his clock timed out. Now he's got to do some laundry, eat some food, get some shut-eye, and it doesn't matter. It could be the first thing in the morning, it could be the middle of the night. That's on the rotation. And a lot of those places aren't doing that anymore.
And this particular, from Western Pennsylvania, kind of a particular social media posting. It's a very sad day for us here. We have always taken pride in being able to be open 7 days a week, 3 shifts a day. You could always count on us being here, always open. Right? And I just thought to myself, this was part of our logistical experience as society. We could be driving back late from a wheeling trip and trying to do a long haul back from a show where, maybe we went out east and we went to the PA All Breeds and we left 2 or 3 days ahead of schedule, and we've been away from our family for 4, 5, 6 days, and it's 3 a.m. because we're just pushing to get home, and we decided to stop in a truck stop and have a bite to eat, or we know that there's a particular diner that we can stop in. But it says, this restaurant goes on to say, unfortunately, it's time to go with the new normal and cut back on some hours. Like everyone else in the area, we're struggling to stay fully staffed. Just when we think we're getting somewhere, the bottom drops out and we are right back to where we started. Struggling, overworked, and quality help is extremely hard to find. It's just fascinating because I feel like we're all feeling this change, this pinch, and we can't in any capacity put our finger on one specific issue to address. But realistically, this system, this process of logistics that kind of underlies our Western experience seems to be struggling to keep up with our current demand.
Not to mention that in that struggle of trying to keep up and trying to force stuff out the door quicker, we're seeing more and more mistakes. We're getting product that's missing hardware, product that's got the wrong part in the box, or sometimes just the wrong part showing up. And it's just, it's a constant challenge, and it's getting amplified by the fact that there's other outside influences on the logistics chain. So now they're trying to make up for that, and they're moving too fast and making more mistakes.
Now, as I mentioned in our other podcast, Jeffrey, and folks, if you're not aware, there is a secondary podcast as part of the ownership of SFJ 4x4, and it's called The American Hustle. And this that program goes on to discuss some of the finer nuances that makes this particular off-road brand unique in our industry. And as I was mentioning with Jeffrey, and we were kind of unpacking today some of those nuanced differences, we were talking about, what were we talking about, Jeffrey?
We were talking about the relentless self-education.
Right.
So
I was trying to get Jeffrey to plug us there a little bit.
Talking about us.
We were talking about us.
we were talking about sharpening the axe.
And ultimately, one of the things that makes us unique, and those things that I used to say, is that our ability to kind of problem solve. And so this was I was trying to alley-oop Jeffrey, but also
he
forgetting in the process.
But
Don't
he
worry.
did, Jeff.
So, that ultimately SFJ 4x4.
It's hard to spike that ball down when he hit it way over there.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that ultimately SFJ 4x4 isn't exactly. It's not just about the nuts and bolts and how things come together, but we actually are prioritizing problem solving, and so that is what we do. And so as these logistics have changed within our society, that we ourselves are now spending more time problem solving. So just as these restaurants have changed, just as these hub logistics have changed, just as the trucking industry has been impacted or changed, the shipping industry, ports, customs, tariffs, whatever, now problem solving, as Jeffrey was saying, when parts are showing up and they're not quite right, our ability to pivot, which has been one of our, kind of our fortes, has become more important than ever.
well, not only that, but just the fact that we are problem solving in how we're doing our ordering. And we're looking at, hey, we know XYZ shippers can arrive to my house faster than they can arrive to the shop. And so we'll sometimes do that. We know that we have another one that I'd placed an order for a product, and then Scott decided he wanted to order the same product for himself, and he placed an order that night, 8 hours later from when I put the order in. His product was there the next day. The shop's was 3 days later.
And I'll just kind of be incredibly revealing regarding Jeff lives basically, I'm just go overgeneralize, 2 zip codes away. He literally lives a town and a half away.
Yeah.
And
Less than 20
Amazon
minutes.
specifically runs their own logistics to that town, but there is a invisible boundary
Yes.
that does not cross into Conneaut, Ohio.
Well, they do, but they just go straight to the post office.
That's
Right.
correct. That's correct. That actually, because of a negotiated logistics issue, they actually do not do the same degree of home delivery here in what is considered to be rural America.
Yep.
But we are literally a border town.
So
Different.
the same truck that stops at Jeff stops at the post office, and then we have to wait for some other logistics to get it to us.
Funny thing is, not only do I get multiple different Amazon trucks, because I've had situations where I've had 3 or 4 deliveries that I thought would come on one truck. I've had 3 to 4 different Amazon vehicles in the same day.
Yep.
Different drivers and personal vehicles. Now I'm seeing a lot of that where there's people delivering as a subcontract or outlet
Yep.
for Amazon. They're showing up in their personal vehicles wearing an Amazon vest, and I'm like, who's this pulling up?
Yeah.
And I I think that's a fascinating thing. I also believe that the vacuum of rural America delivery, much like the Dollar General model, honestly, is created space for competing logistics companies. The biggest one that kind of strikes me is On Track. I've seen kind of bolster with more utilization recently, and while they try to have a fair amount of data tracking available, they don't. They're not a multi-billion-dollar company. They're a relative startup. We've seen one of the biggest automotive suppliers out of Talmadge, Ohio, used to kind of guaranteed utilize a UPS. They actually somehow existed as a UPS hub. I don't understand it. You would drive on the highway, and you can actually look down over the highway, and you can see this particular retail and wholesale distribution business from the highway, and back at the loading docks would have tractor trailers loaded up next to it.
Umpteen.
And they did. They had 12 different docks off this automotive supplier, and they were actual just UPS trucks and FedEx trucks and whatnot. And we could count on getting our product within 24 hours. for a particular rate. It would even be free. So we'd spend, $100, $200, whatever it is, and we would have it free shipped within 24 hours. That was a pretty darn good deal.
Well,
Now, in order for us to get it free, we're waiting a couple days, or there's an inconsistency in those logistics.
Well, the other thing that's happening, and it's been happening for years, is combined warehousing. So a perfect example is Bush Industries out of Erie, Pennsylvania, was or may still be, I don't know, a kind of a commercialized furniture, office furniture, things like that.
Okay.
Typically all the press board type stuff, but very, very big shipping company across the world.
Mm-hmm.
They had a massive warehouse in Erie. Again, they may still have it, I don't know. But what you're talking about, having 5 UPS trucks, 5 FedEx trucks, a bunch of random XYZ shipping companies, all there. FedEx, UPS would come in, trade trailers, leave, just constant cycle. They ended up partnering with Amazon and became an Amazon warehouse. But they're still shipping all their own product too. It's just, hey, while we're loading this truck, we can load pallets for Amazon here too. Boom, there you go. And it became a combined warehouse. That also leads to issues because now your logistics coordination has to be that much better to make sure that your shipments plus the other company shipments are making the same or the correct routes.
And sometimes you have an off company person loading and unloading trucks.
Yes.
So the mistake opportunity is high. Again, it goes back to the guy that's
There's a lot more
physically
hands.
doing the loading and unloading. And I'm actually familiar with, not as big as a volume, but my brother worked at a place where they stored product for a bunch of different retailers, and they would have to load and unload trucks and then store it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, opportunity for stuff to get damaged, things to get lost, go on the wrong truck, all that kind of stuff.
And we're not discrediting any specific individuals in this conversation.
No.
No, we're just
Things happen.
advising you to the challenges of that.
Everyone makes mistakes, and when you have more everyone, there's going to be more mistakes.
There you go. And so I guess to start to wrap things up,
I was
folks,
gonna
and,
say,
and
we're out of time. So
and to start to wrap things up, this idea that I want to share one or two more transparencies in the conversation, and say that specifically one or two of the manufacturers I was saying that own their own trucks in the process. From a business standpoint, while they do wholesale distribution of commercial goods, automotive parts, recreational vehicle parts, automotive supplies, shop supplies, so on and so forth, industrial supplies, they fancy themselves a logistics company. And so they have always had a mindset where they actually do bulk fuel purchases, mass fleet maintenance, rent from Penske, Hertz, so on and so forth, whatever trucks they need to do to get the job done. And while, yes, they distribute commercial goods, they fancy themselves a logistics company. So what did they do? They took on an Amazon contract.
Yep.
And so it was like, well, we're supposed to be getting our parts, and now we're competing with Amazon supply
I'm just
chain.
going to make a perfect example. Needed a part for a classic vehicle, classic Jeep. Went on, tried to find where does it exist, where's a competitive price, and I got to where it was going to be out a week for this part because it was kind of a niche part.
A very niche part.
And I'm like, this isn't going to work. So last ditch, go on Amazon. It says, well, I could have it. Maybe this is a Friday. I could have it on Tuesday. Awesome. I can work with that. What shows up? Our normal route driver with our Amazon package. And
Yes.
I'm like,
Our normal
WTF.
our normal wholesale distribution route driver
Yeah.
in his route truck
drops off our Amazon package.
with Amazon.
And I was like, if I would have known I could have got it from you on Tuesday, I would have just bought it from you.
But you couldn't because
But
it was
I couldn't.
Amazon.
Because it's Amazon. And so it's fascinating. It's like, I would love to know, because it showed up within 24 hours.
Yeah.
It wasn't Prime. It wasn't this. It wasn't 2 days. It was just, it showed up next day. And so this kind of leaves me with the last piece in this company. Again, they're one of our primary distribution for our automotive parts. there was a rather large and well-known acquisition, buyout, bankruptcy that happened within the last 3 years, and ultimately Four Wheel Parts and their holding company and their subsidiaries were largely dissolved. And what's valuable to kind of recognize in this wake is this happened at a post-COVID experience where what I tend to think of as the 1 or 2% driving force within markets recognized certain things were transpiring. Four Wheel Parts as a whole was dissolved. Their wholesale distribution program and therefore all of their warehouses were sold. So the initial purchase was made by Wheel Pros utilizing some crazy BlackRock money and via this weird structure by Hoonigan, and purchased. Then they sold off all of their warehouses to our preferred warehouse logistics distribution company, the one that we mentioned, Meyer. So it's interesting that the data set, the products, the import products are all owned by one company. The actual ability to move them from coast to coast after they get off the freight ship is owned by a different company working collaboratively together. And this, folks, just kind of is an interesting, it's such a deviation from the Henry Ford model that is burnt into our brain as kind of a Western culture that the big three used to.
Yet steel in the back door and cars came out the front door and everything was made there.
And I leave you with that, folks, that in the most recent age, so we went from our understanding of the model and manufacturing process that Scott just kind of visualized for us to this idea that within the last couple of years, the rip, strip, dip of multiple brands, the naming rights, the import rights, but then the ownership of distribution is this kind of thinly veiled handshake experience with a lot of hands in the pot making it work. We salute all the people who are doing their very, very best to continue to make parts and to distribute. I do think there are disadvantages if you are steel in the back door and a part out the front door, or raw aluminum in the back door and a part out the front door, a direct-to-consumer brand. Folks, have patience with them and, prepare and plan your build accordingly. Understand that they're doing their best to take this great big pie and simplify it for you, but it takes time.
And your market relevancy matters. Where you invest is showing the market where to invest.
Yep, where you spend your money matters. And if immediate gratification and Amazon purchases are the bulk priority of our automotive experience, then we're going to deal with the hoops and the rigmarole of the current day new normal marketing, pricing, and lack of personnel processes. Wow, that was a mouthful of a podcast. I don't know that we had any explicit answers for folks, but definitely a call to action to have some patience and do your homework when choosing your parts wisely.
Have some kindness.
Have some kindness. Give a duck.
And
give a duck about things.
And have
folks.
some hustle.
Yeah. Listen to you. If you care about what happened in our personal lives and you're interested in our weekend update, you might want to stay through the outro credits. We appreciate all the people who got into the comments and shared their experiences and their input on stuff. Remember that you too can jump in there and join in that conversation. In the meantime, if you would consider leaving us some reviews and rankings and 5 stars and all that kind of good stuff, that sure would be dandy, because that lets us know how we're doing.
You got to do it in your Minnesota accent if you're going to say dandy.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I already called out some folks today, so I'm going to keep my call out quota to a minimum.
Guys, give us a bunch of reviews, and I will make sure he uses some more accents.
That's fair.
Goodness. You know what? We got a lot of Jeeps to work on. Tune in for Jeffrey's Tuesday update. He and Scott will share and show what all is going on. We've got Jeeps coming out our ears, and we thank you for that. But everything is taking, I don't know, a quadzillion times longer because of the exact things we just talked about today. So we could appreciate some good vibes coming our way too. Until next time, Jeep on.
Keep on.
Jeep on.
So talking about logistics is I logistically realized that my poor kid has been waiting, I don't know, umpteen years for his go-kart project.
He's been incredibly patient with
He's been such a patient kid. And I originally started this project because I wanted him to learn about building a project and the pitfalls of a project and how you can make things work and pivoting and all this kind of stuff. And I had to come to the realization that he's 12,
Yep.
really wants to use his go-kart.
Yep.
He's invested a lot of his own hard-earned money into the go-kart, and nothing is going well.
Yes.
And nothing is working. And I told my wife, I said, I'm very worried that I'm going to ruin him from projects. Like he's going to be, a young man, and he's going to go look at a house, and he's going to go like, nope, it's a project. And
Yep.
I remember when I was a kid with my dad, and it was terrible.
Yep. I spent all this money on this go-kart, and it sat in the corner.
Yeah. So I spent most of my weekend looking at logistics and trying to purchase the final parts for this darn thing so that hopefully before they go back to school, because I kind of had a call to action like, well, we got about a month
Yep.
before they go back to school, that at least he gets to ride it around the yard once before it breaks. 'Cause that is the reality of the situation.
Yes.
On that. So had to do a lot of looking, and most go-kart parts are made overseas.
Yep.
I'd say 90% of them. So there was a lot of U.S. manufacture or storage or China storage or pricing and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully soon we'll have a go-kart. And it's been sort of good because we've done some machining. We've done, with the lathe, with the mill. We're changing stuff up. We're problem solving on how to make things fit. And he's very much learning the change one thing, change five model. So I guess that overall is good. So, and then in addition to that, we played around with the side-by-side a little bit, putting a wiper on it and everything. He's like, well, why do you need a wiper? I said, I don't know, because it was cheap and it's fun, and I'm tired of doing arduous projects that take forever.
Yes.
That I just wanted a small project where I can get done and go, yep, that's done, and that looks kind of cool. He's like, well, I don't want to ride in this in the rain. I said, me neither.
That's so classically the Brown family.
Yeah, so it's got a wiper now. It's fine.
You know what I should say? It's the Brown men. Amy and Evie would be like, that's fine. Tops off the Jeep.
Yeah,
driving there.
100%.
Yes.
Yes. Aiden and I
so
are
funny.
more worried about comfort.
That's funny.
That's awesome. I sat on the back of a tractor all weekend, and to bring up, somebody had brought up the Mahindra and the Roxor and all of those kinds of things, and I totally geek out on all of that as I shared, and just specifically my tractor. The engine is made in India. The entirety of the chassis of the tractor is made in Japan from the Mitsubishi company. And then all of the implements are made in the U.S. So backhoe, bucket, forklift, cab, all of that kind of stuff. So that's talk about, global logistics, right?
Yeah.
We literally were just talking about stateside. But it was interesting to me because I sat and I dug for entirely too many hours simply because the idea of I did say that I was going to take on this massive project. And
you didn't know what you didn't know until you knew it.
Right. And
you're in it, and you got to finish it.
there's that meme or those reels out there that it was like, I didn't know I was poor, and so we just had to do everything ourselves.
Yes.
Jeff and I, we've all talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
Those of you who are from the more more rural spaces. Not to discredit anybody who is listening to us who comes from a more degree of affluence by any stretch. Dude, if I could pay somebody to do some of these tasks, I would at this point.
Yep.
But I've had to just figure it out on my own, and with the help of good other people. And, not to say that, but I'm not in a position where we can just pay for things to just get done.
Right.
And we had just under 500 feet of water line and fiber optic cable and tracer wire that needs to get ran below frost line from the house build that my wife and I are doing. And really makes me feel some type of way. But even at my most efficient processes, I can move about 4 feet deep and about 10 feet long in about an hour. And it's very sandy, gravelly, and it's just so much digging. That's a lot. It's a lot of digging. I must have been able to move faster at some point than that, because I did manage to do 300 feet, and I don't have 300. I don't have 30 hours in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I must have hit an efficiency at somewhere in there, but I am having to mentally prepare for another whole weekend of digging and attaching water line, or at least a couple late nights or something. I don't know.
Yep.
So that was...
It would just make you appreciate that water out of the tap all much more.
Oh, so much more. And now, you know what? I know what it takes. I understand the logistics.
Yep.
It's not a mystery to me. How many people just flip on the light in their house or turn the faucet of their sink or turn the key on their Jeep or whatever, push the gas pedal, and they don't understand what it takes to get to where they're going.
Yep.
And that's part of my own challenges is I almost crave that understanding, that breakdown. And even as an athlete and within the athleticism or strength, things that I've competed in the past in my life, I always used to say I'm a mechanic. And I'm not a mechanic like you or Greg, as far as really authentically understanding the nuts and bolts of things. But I want to know how things work. I want to get into that good stance. I want to have good form in the weight room. I want to appropriately move on the playing field.
The hardest part is even knowing some of that, like understanding, okay, we got to dig a trench, got to put water line in, got to do that kind of stuff. Until you're on the tractor moving those levers, you don't understand it.
I'm perfectly okay humbling myself. And I was struggling in the springtime to dig. And I was communicating with a friend acquaintance of mine, and he was like, he was busting my hump a little bit and being like, well, it helps if you actually know how to dig or run the machine. I can't wait to text him and be like, I totally had no idea how to operate a backhoe. And now after this weekend of kind of feet in the fire situation, I am much smoother. And that is a testament to, again, people who are dedicated operators.
Yeah.
Really
Absolutely.
can finite move that machine. I could appreciate it. I could understand it. I saw the reels. I can see the videos of people opening up bottles or picking up paper clips.
Yeah, you're not there yet, but...
And God, no. But not even close. Not even close, folks.
And then we find out.
But you've got 30 more hours, so maybe.
Maybe.
And then we find out our controls are different than actual operators.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we think we're going to be awesome at our backhoe use, and then we'll be like, nope, you're on hobby machines. You don't know how to actually run.
I have such a greater. It's like watching somebody at the Olympics and then you yourself going out there being like, well, I think I can tumble across the yard. I can pull this bow and arrow back and hit that.
Nope.
Hard pass.
They make it look too easy.
Jeffrey, bring us home.
Oh, it was a very busy weekend. So I'll start by saying Sunday was Kristen and I's anniversary. So
Congratulations.
of course, what does that mean for my life is that I do everything for everybody else.
Oof.
So I did for her. I did get our swimming pool set up. She had purchased a 10-foot round pool, 30-inch high pool for the kids to have.
Nice.
Now that we're
It's great.
3/4 of the way through summer.
She got a deal. That's what I hear. I know she got a deal.
No, she bought it earlier. I just now got around to doing it. Yeah, she got a deal, but I did.
I'm sure she did, but I feel that in my soul with your conversation.
So I did
The
that.
go-kart 3 years now? Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
So
fine.
I set that up, and then my neighbor, who is elderly, and her stairs are literally being chewed away. I've never seen concrete chewed like this. And even in a week's time from when I last went, hey, I bought the concrete mix, but I forgot my tools are at Scott's house. So I'll come back, after I get the tools, I'll come back and we'll do this. There's even bigger holes and more. I'm like, I can't believe something's literally eating her concrete. Weirdest thing I've ever seen. So I spent time doing that, got that repaired for her Saturday night. Sunday, we're like, all right, it's our anniversary. We're going to do like a date thing, but we have the kids. So we went to a friend's album release party at Voodoo Brewing, which is where our big event's going to be. So I know the manager there real well. He was in having a day on Sunday. He was supposed to be there for a couple hours for inventory, but had a last-minute call-off. They had a water pipe leaking. So they were having a day. So I end up helping with maintenance stuff at Voodoo.
Of course you did.
Minor stuff, but literally they had the manager and their maintenance of the building that they lease out of came in, and we watched the old gentleman from the maintenance go up this ladder and almost fall off the ladder.
Oh,
and I'm
dear.
like, holy crap. So after that, I start getting more involved, and I go hold the ladder for them, that kind of stuff. And then at one point, I see Kyle is his name. He's just standing up looking around trying to find any of his employees. I'm like, what do you need, Kyle? And he's like, I just need a bucket. Can you go into our back room, go into the dish area, just grab a bucket off the stack? I'm like,
so Jeffrey.
yep.
That's so Jeffrey.
So I just walk right past the kitchen staff, who all just kind of look at me and then just go back to what they're doing. They're like, whatever, he knows what he's doing. Straight back, grab a bucket, come back around, and my wife's over there panicking because we've already watched an old man on a ladder almost die. So she's like,
we know how you do with
she's like
ladders.
hoping I won't go up this ladder. So I just walk around in behind the bar area, and I look up at him. I'm like, you ready? He's like, yep. I just throw the bucket up 15 feet in the air. Whatever. Just move on.
Jeff, the builder, cannot rest.
No. No. It's just always something after another, just always there.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. Such a classically us kind of summary of folks.
I knew you would love the Voodoo one.
Yes. yes. And I think Scott and I both pulled some extra hours this weekend as well.
Yeah, I saw there was some fluid film on the floor when I walked in. I'm like,
Yeah.
things happened.
And that was me trying to keep it clean.
Oh, I'm sure. That's not easy.
We've got a lot going on, folks, and we are trying to be as professional and as thorough as possible in the kind of the crazy world that we're living in. We're trying to stay true to what makes us uniquely us. And so with that said, it's time to get after it and get our hands dirty and get back on the service floor. Until next week, Jeep on.
Keep on.
Jeep on.